Today on the Caucus, John Harwood and Jackie Combs discuss the rhetoric and the reality of the budget battles in Washington.
So, Jackie, Tim Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, says we have now reached the statutory debt limit. On the other hand, they say they can fudge it until August. What does this mean?
Well, they've got all sorts of ways of money management ways of moving, not paying certain bills. They've estimated that can take him till about August 2nd. So that gives us the summer to fight about it.
Help decode a little bit whether or not, in fact, this is a titanic fight or whether it's same old, same old. Hard to know whether to be sanguine or whether to expect a war.
Right. Can I say it's a little of both?
Yeah.
I mean, it's same old in the sense that the Democrats are not for doing it all on the spending side, all the savings that is. The Republicans want it to all be spending cuts, no tax increases. But what makes this titanic is that we're talking about numbers that are so much larger than any we've ever seen before.
I was struck by looking at the history at just how partisan it is. All the members of one party, if their president's in power, they vote to support him on the debt limit, and they take a walk if the other party's in power.
Right. Exactly. It'd be funny if it wasn't so serious. The Republicans in the Senate can afford to vote no, but the Republicans run the House, so they have responsibility along with the power.
At a similar moment in the 1980s, Congress passed what they called the Gramm-Rudman-Hollings Law, which began a process of deficit reduction that ultimately led to a balanced budget, although it didn't immediately. Can that kind of process, which is a model for what they're negotiating today, work now?
By setting targets, deficit targets that they have to meet, the hope is that you leave it to Congress and the White House how you're going to do spending and revenues in order to hit those targets. If you don't, what happens in the 80s and the 90s would presumably recur, which is you go to the negotiating table and you really bear down and try to come up with, if not the exact targets, then new targets, but that show progress.
So it sounds like what we're doing right now is not a process that will end in the next few months, but we are beginning the long process, turning the fiscal ship, negotiating toward a solution sometime in the future.
I think the way to think of this is in two prongs. One, there will be specific spending cuts that would take that would be identified and would take place over the next 10 years and certainly in the next year. And then number two, there'd be this process that would set these deficit targets to meet that would be a way of ensuring that additional savings will be found in the coming years.
John Boehner, the Speaker, said over the weekend that there's no need to go to the 11th hour on this. We can do this early. Any prospect that will happen, or is this a process that by its nature always goes to the 11th hour?
Human nature always goes to the last hour, and especially the humans in Congress.